Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my first and only immersive mod review video for Fallout 3. In my very well-informed opinion, the add-ons I will soon introduce make up the only load order you will ever need to have the most enjoyable and rewarding experience in the Capital Wasteland. In this video, I'll cover every aspect of enhancements from graphics to gameplay, and I'll also show you how to get these mods properly running to ensure your transition from modding to playing is as smooth as possible. Thank you all so much for joining me today, so please make yourselves comfortable while I start the show. Fallout 3 was the first of many things for Bethesda and for the role-playing game genre. Among others, it was the first time the IP would appear in 3 dimensions and on consoles, and also the first time many Americans would see a detailed first-person view of what their nation's capital would look like after a nuclear apocalypse. While it wasn't the first time Bethesda had made a console game, it was their first time translating the mechanics and technical design of Fallout from the isometric 2-dimensional realm into the first-person 3-dimensional space. During this translation, Bethesda needed to strike a balance in the UI design between those playing with a controller and those playing with a mouse and keyboard. On consoles, I believe the UI functioned extremely well and felt natural. More importantly, it communicated information efficiently to the young me sitting on the floor staring up at my family's old heavy CRT television. However, on PC, and especially on PC in the modern day, this UI design has left a lot to be desired. DarNified UI by Darn not only improves the curb appeal of the game's menus, but it also helps to ensure a timelessness to the design that holds up with any modern game. The first thing you'll notice after a proper install is a new icon in the bottom left of the boot up menu and in the in-game pause menu. This Vault Boy icon tells you that Darn UI is properly installed by showing the version number. Immediately after, you'll notice the start menu font has changed to what I think is a much cleaner but still era-appropriate design. This font carries through to all text in the game to ensure consistency and to maintain the updated theme. But DarNified UI doesn't just change the font and call it good. It goes on to alter almost every menu in the game. Most notably are the looting, trading, and dialogue menus. The quality of life improvements here cannot be overstated. Navigating the menus is easier on both the eyes and the hands. More items can be displayed at a time, which means less scrolling and confusion in both trade and in dialogue. While walking around, the default UI elements have been cleaned up and shrunk down to a size that minimizes intrusiveness while still displaying information efficiently, resulting in extremely immersive exploration and combat gameplay. DarNified UI could perhaps be credited with starting the trend of customizable UI elements that we see so often in later Fallout and Elder Scrolls titles. Here in Fallout 3, DarNified UI offers customization through a new category added to the in-game pause menu. These settings allow you to resize the menu window panels, and toggle the display of new elements such as the time in the top right corner, as well as stats about your character, including karma, XP, and radiation persistent displays. However, I recommend keeping most of these turned off and setting the date and time display to only show the time. In my opinion, this maximizes immersion by keeping your HUD free of clutter, while also allowing you to be easily aware of the time in the world around you, especially when exploring interiors.
I'm some crazy junkie who stole money from him. Look, I don't know who you are. I'm not just handing over my life's earnings to you. You do that for me? I never expected anyone to care enough. Here you go. Thanks, kid. You're all right.
There's a reason that this particular mod appeared first in the video. Although it isn't a framework, optimization, or processing upgrade like those of my first Fallout 3 guide, I believe DarNified UI is the best initial step for in-game additions to bring Fallout 3 up to speed for the modern day. If you're like me and longing to return to this game after years of being away, DarNified UI is definitely the first quality of life improvement you'll want in order to make the transition from the Commonwealth to the Capital Wasteland much, much easier.
Thanks. Walk well, friend.
After more recent experiences in titles such as Fallout 4 and Skyrim, transitioning back to Fallout 3 will almost certainly give the Capital Wasteland a very stagnant feeling. What I mean is that while there is a day and night cycle in the game, the visual experience in the exterior world rarely changes. The sky is consistently the same shade of faded green, and nighttime simply reduces the color palette to essentially just black and white without actually reducing visibility. Enhanced Weather by Skingrad24 introduces a much more immersive weather system for the Capital Wasteland. This includes a new sky and cloud textures, light and heavy rainstorms, light and heavy snowstorms, darker nights, and fantastic new atmospheric sound effects. These new additions are not just cosmetic, they can also have immersive gameplay impacts. For example, the rain and snow will now give dosages of radiation when you are exploring outside without proper protection. Sneaking around in a storm or at night will make it harder to detect you. However, to balance this, nighttime will be much darker and make it harder for you to detect enemies visually. In my opinion, the most underrated features of Enhanced Weather are the sound effects of the outside storms carrying through to interior locations. Exploring a cave or an abandoned house or a ruined factory becomes a much more immersive and atmospheric adventure as you hear the raging storm buffeting the decaying walls and ceiling. It is extremely tempting to showcase these effects here. However, I want to preserve the novelty of this experience as much as I can, so that the sounds pull you into your character's journey naturally, so I won't be calling them out here. Enhanced Weather could easily stand on its own as the only improvement needed for Fallout 3's weather. However, it pairs exceptionally well with the next couple of items on this list. So remember that faded green sky I mentioned before? Well, as disturbing and shocking as that is the first time, it quickly becomes monotonous and annoying every time you emerge to be greeted by a face full of that same gross hue that drowns out the interesting colors from everything around you. While Enhanced Weather greatly breaks up that monotony with storms, the clear days still suffer from that same green tint and washed out color palette. Fellout by Hattix saves the day, literally. Once you successfully install Fellout, there's no immediate notification that it is running like with Enhanced Weather, but that's because it isn't needed. It is immediately obvious that Fellout is working its magic. The green is gone. The colors of the environment pop in the best way possible. Who would have thought a ruined wasteland could be visually entertaining? Additionally, Fellout includes atmospheric sun glare by Lady Deadlock, and wow, am I glad it does. Sun glare wouldn't necessarily be a mod that I would go out of my way to install, but that's because I didn't realize how much it enhances the environment. On a clear day, that bright sun, now made even brighter by the nuclear deterioration of the atmosphere, makes the open expanse of the wasteland feel oppressive even before the addition of the deadly mutated creatures, and truly makes trekking around feel rewarding simply because you braved the harshness of the sun. For reference, see movies such as Mad Max or The Book of Eli. Fallout's description page makes a statement that I believe all mods should strive for. If it feels like a mod, it's failed. But if it feels like how the game should have been, it's succeeded. And I can definitely say that Fallout falls into that latter category. The mod could rest on its laurels in the exterior world space alone, but it doesn't stop there. Fallout also makes the same changes to interiors as well. It removes the green tint and balances the lighting so that once again the environment becomes more interesting and colorful without actually changing the colors themselves. So why is this a big deal? Is the green tint really that bad? When I played it on Xbox, I didn't mind it, so why do I care now? Well, it's not 2008 anymore. The awe-inspiring feeling of entering into a massive first-person open world of an American apocalypse isn't enough on its own to enthrall modern players. It needs to feel good. Fallout is the last piece of the puzzle to ensuring that the world you are exploring keeps you visually and atmospherically engaged with the events taking place in it. Weather, lighting, and general atmospheric enhancements are the types of things that are difficult to sell with words and with videos. The only way to truly understand what these mods can do for you is to experience it. And since all of these additions are free, there's no reason not to give them a chance, but I promise you won't want to go back. But if you aren't totally satisfied, you can always get a full refund. The last remaining improvement to bring Fallout 3 up to modern standards in terms of environment and atmosphere focuses on lighting. Please allow me to introduce Fallout Streetlights by SpeedyB64 and RW2112. This mod changes many of the electric light sources found around the Capital Wasteland. Most notably, it adds more of them in appropriate areas, some of which include flickering animations and actual light casting effects, not just dull glows. It's been established in many Fallout titles that the ruined wastelands we explore still have working electrical grids in certain areas, so I do consider this mod to be lore friendly. Thanks to the darker nights added by the previous mods I've reviewed, Fallout Streetlights really makes exploring urban areas at night much more interesting. With the addition of the I&I tweaks mentioned in the install tutorial at the end of these reviews, the lights and the shadows they cast do a lot for immersion and suspense as you try to aim at that hulking figure just beyond the glow of the flickering, broken street lamp. Even if you've seen the Capital Wasteland 100 times before, you certainly have never seen it like this, and you just gotta see it like this. One important installation note, which I also cover at the end of this video, is that Fallout Streetlights must be loaded before the Broken Steel DLC. If you want to know how to do that, or what a recommended load order is, be sure to stick around until the end of the video.
Good to see you.
At this point, your game will now look dramatically improved from a graphical standpoint. The dynamic weather, lighting enhancements, and even UI fixes all combine to make this game feel like it was only made a couple of years ago instead of over a decade. So why am I stopping here? There's dozens of texture improvements, model improvements, super high-res guns and faces and clothes, and so on. So why not install those? Well, there's a couple of reasons, and I go back and forth on determining which is the most important, so instead I'll proceed in no particular order, and I'll just let you decide. In a single word, stability. It's no great secret that Bethesda games always feel a step behind in terms of graphical fidelity. This was as true with Fallout 3 as it was with Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and so on. The mods I showed in my first Fallout 3 video, and in this one, are designed to enhance stability and improve graphical quality at the same time. So why worry? Well, because the foundation all of these mods stand on is still the creation engine. No matter how smooth things seem on the surface, the underlying workhorse is still the same old creation engine that was running Oblivion. So it is safe to say that pushing it further with tons of new super high-res textures would certainly undermine a lot of the performance enhancements I showed you how to install previously. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't install those types of mods, but you should be prepared for what they might do to your game. At best, you can expect frame rate drops and stuttering. At worst, you can expect frequent crashes, save game corruption, and bloat. But there's still another reason I don't recommend these types of mods. I hope I have made it abundantly clear by now that my goal is to deliver the most immersive and engaging experience available for Fallout 3 in the modern era. While the vanilla game did a great job of that in 2008, it needs a little help now in 2020. All of the mods I am showing you are designed to pull you into the world to try to help you feel every step your character takes through the Capital Wasteland as if they were your own. These super high-res textures, no matter how photorealistic, no matter how many of them you may install, will do more to alienate you from the game than to pull you into it. I said it earlier, but it's worth reiterating now. A mod has failed if it stands out like a sore thumb. It succeeds when you can't tell what came from Bethesda and what came from someone else. Super high-res textures and models feel so out of place in Fallout 3 because they don't match with the rest of the world, and no matter how hard they try, they will never be able to because again, they have to work on the old creation engine. So you could have a beautiful, gorgeous-looking texture on an outfit, but the facial model will look like Play-Doh, and the animations will be robotic, and the background LOD will be flickering, and so on. So what stands out in all of those things? Yeah, the outfit. It doesn't match the world around it. It's clearly out of place. Instead, leaving those types of mods out will provide a consistency to the world and ensure continuity in experiences. So until Fallout 3 gets remade on a more modern engine with more modern resources and tools, the best way to immerse yourself in the game is the way Bethesda provided the models and textures that your character interacts with the most. But I accept that this viewpoint may be flawed, so if you feel like trying to change my mind, let's have a discussion about it in the comments. So now that I've shown you all that I believe is needed for graphical improvements, let's talk about gameplay for the last but certainly not the least item in this video. FWE, or Fallout 3 Wanderers Edition by the FWE team, consisting of Mez Morkey, the project lead, along with JJ Gunn, Delamer, The Third Type, Schlangster, and Xquake, is definitively the most comprehensive gameplay overhaul for Fallout 3, and, in my very well-informed opinion, all of the Fallout titles. The list of adjustments for the things this mod doesn't cover would be significantly shorter than the inverse. The overview of changes on the mod page alone is over 1,000 words. But size isn't everything, so what does it do? Well, Wanderers Edition focuses on two things. First, on improving first-person combat elements in the sense of making combat more challenging, faster-paced, and overall more exciting. And second, improving the role-playing depth of choice that the game already offers by expanding the effects of your choices both during character creation and as you level up. Additionally, both of these guiding principles also have the benefit of being highly customizable through in-game settings menus, so that you can tweak the effects to tailor to your playstyle, and I highly recommend you explore these options before starting your next playthrough. Alternatively, you could leave these settings to their default values to avoid spoiling the excitement of discovering and then mastering the new gameplay mechanics. So, now that you know what the mod does, how does it do that? Well, the simplest explanation I can offer is to go read the mod page, which I always recommend you do. But since I did mention how long it was, let me give my list of the highlights. Built-in alternate start, which if you've seen my Fallout 4 videos, you'll know I'm a huge fan of this. Configurable pacing adjustments for leveling up, rebalances of perks, skills, and special stats, alternatives to lockpicking, including explosive entry, karma system rebalances, rebalances to barter and economy, skill books now provide lasting perks as opposed to temporary buffs, just like in Fallout 4, combat health rebalances to the player and to enemies for faster-paced action, gunplay rebalances to things like spread, aiming, dodging, location-based hits, movement speed, VATS tweaks, a new sprinting ability, action point adjustments, a new grenade hotkey, fall damage tweaks, and velocity and range rebalance to projectiles. New weapons and armor are now included from previous games, missing unique weapons that were mentioned either in dialogue or in writing are now restored. A complete rebalance to all the following: weapons, armor, power armor, making it more powerful but more rare, wear and tear on your items, weapon jamming, repairing item mechanics, and item crafting. Loot rarity adjustments, portable chem labs, infirmaries, bedrolls, water purifiers, and grills are all now purchasable for an appropriate price. Newly added chems, drugs, including healing items and triage. A rebalance of chem effects and added visual effects when using drugs. Radiation and crippled limbs are now much more deadly. Healing while sleeping is now balanced against the amount of time spent resting. Eating, drinking, and sleeping survival mechanics are now in place for you to tend to. Again, these are configurable. Improved enemy combat AI. Equipment overhaul of NPCs so their gear is both appropriate and more dangerous. Creatures can now have perks which can make each encounter unique and dangerous. Improvements to trade caravans and followers. Timescale and environment respawn timer changes, fast travel alternatives including a new motorcycle and caravans reminiscent of Fallout 1 and 2, and lastly, minor immersion adjustments which are far too numerous to count. And that massive list is only a sample of the total adjustments Wanderers Edition makes. But again, what is even more impressive is that nearly all of these things are completely configurable through an in-game menu. Fallout 3 Wanderers Edition by the FWE team is the most comprehensive mod for improving the gameplay experience in the Capital Wasteland. The fact that these adjustments are all highly customizable means that Wanderers Edition can fit any playstyle. Do you prefer the vanilla experience but just want to be able to sprint? Or do you want to go super hardcore immersive with survival needs, decaying weapons, and extra deadly combat encounters? This mod can handle all of those extremes and anything in between. There's no reason not to give this a try. If you only install one mod for Fallout 3, it absolutely should be Wanderers Edition. Before I wrap up coverage of this mod, I should mention that installing Wanderers Edition can be a little complicated, especially when dealing with other mods. I strongly recommend you check out my tutorial at the end of this video for help getting your load order set up properly so you can enjoy all of these mods as smoothly and bug-free as possible. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that covers everything I believe is necessary to create a truly immersive and engaging Capital Wasteland experience. I think that adding much more than this would actually be detrimental and only water down the effects presented by the amazing changes I covered. But maybe you disagree with me. I would love to hear what you think I missed and what I should check out down in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found at least one new thing to add to your game. Please remember to leave an endorsement for any mod you download and enjoy. Even though this game has aged, these authors still appreciate seeing your support. It's the only reward they get. If you enjoyed my style, I'll be doing a Fallout 3 role playthrough in the near future, so I'd encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss it. Regardless, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great time with the game. It's definitely something special. If you're sticking around for the installation tutorials, that's starting right about now. Okay, welcome to the install tutorial portion of the video. The first one we're going to look at is DarNified UI, the UI enhancement mod that fixes all the menus and dialogue and stuff like that. This install tutorial will rely very heavily on the first tutorial video I made, which covers how to set up the game to properly accept new mods. So if you haven't followed that video yet, I highly recommend you do so. Otherwise, unless you're an experienced Fallout 3 modder, this probably isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to you. So I highly recommend you follow that video, or you follow that video first before we get started with this one. Now, when you follow the link in the description of the video, it'll take you right to this page. And the download link is over here to the right of this image. It's under 1 megabyte, so it should be very quick to download. It already has for me. I've already read the description here, but I highly recommend that you do so to have a better understanding. But I'll just go ahead and show you what you need to do. So once you've downloaded it, it'll be in your downloads folder, and I'm actually going to cut it out of the downloads folder, and I'm going to move it over to the Fallout 3 install folder, which is on my D drive, but it could be on any other drive for you. So I'm going to go into my Fallout 3 folder. If you followed my first video, you'll have this mods folder. In here, I'm going to paste the archive. So now I have the archive here, and if you installed WinRAR, which I recommended that you do in the first video, so if you don't have WinRAR, if you haven't followed that first video, do all of that. And I'm going to right click on the archive and I'm going to hit extract here. And it's going to give me this DUI folder, and I can actually delete the archive. I don't need it anymore. So that folder is fine. We're going to leave it there. And now we need to open up Fallout Mod Manager. So once you have Fallout Mod Manager opened up, go ahead and click on Package Manager. In the Package Manager, you're going to want to hit Add FOMod. It may take you to your downloads folder, but if it does, just navigate to your Fallout 3 folder and then into the mods folder where we unpacked that archive, and you should see the DUI folder. So we'll go in there, and now there's 2 items here. We need to install both of them, but the first one that you want to install is the DUI F3 A11. So click that A11 one first, just the A11, not the HF. Just click that one first and then hit open. And then once it does that, you click on it and you're going to hit activate. And it's going to ask you, would you like Fallout INI to be modified to use the default DUI F3 font setup? Yes, you do. You do want that, so you hit yes. And it's going to ask if you want to overwrite, and you're going to say yes to all. And then it's going to say the mod was successfully installed, and that's good. And then now we're not done yet. We need to install that other one. So we're going to go to Add FOMod, and now we're going to click on the HF. This is the hotfix. We're going to go ahead and click on the HF, and we're going to hit open. It's going to ask you want to make a copy. I'm going to say no. You can say yes. I'm going to say no. And then same thing. You just click on it and you hit activate. It's going to ask if you want to overwrite. You're going to hit yes to all, and then it's going to say the mod was successfully installed. And that's it. That's DarNified UI. You'll now have all those improvements that you saw in the video. So hopefully that was helpful. Pretty quick and easy, but it only is really easy if you've followed the first tutorial video. So be sure you do that if you haven't already, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the next one. Okay, so the next mod we're going to show you how to install, or I'm going to show you how to install, is the Enhanced Weather, Rain and Snow V2 Hotfix mod. This is by SkinGrad24. It was covered earlier in the video, but this is how you install it. So the link in the description of the video is going to take you right here to the front mod page. I highly recommend you read the description, but again, I already have, but I do recommend that you do it. So I'm going to go to the Files tab. Much like before, this is very similar to what we've done before. The only difference is which file you're going to want. Now, if you're following my first mod video and you're using the Fallout Mod Manager, which again, highly recommend you use that, you're going to want this bottom file right here and only this bottom file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit manual download. I'm going to hit the slow download because I don't have premium. If you have premium, use the fast one, but yeah. It's going to download. Shouldn't take too terribly long. It's a decently sized file, 36 megabytes because of the different textures for the sky and stuff like that. So I can see why that would be a slightly larger download, but it shouldn't take too terribly long if you have decent internet. It's almost done here. Okay, so once that's done installing, you just open up Fallout Mod Manager. This is very similar to what we've done before. Then click your package manager, and you're going to see your packages, and you're going to add FOMod. Add FOMod, and it's going to go to somewhere, but you want to go to your downloads folder or wherever you download it to. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit OK, open. It's going to extract that, and then I'm going to check it. Hit it right here, and I'm going to hit activate. And it's going to come up with a list of options. This is why I recommend using Fallout Mod Managers, because the author can make like an installer sort of thing, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. So we want rain and snow. We want rain and snow in Fallout. We want the radioactive rain and snow plugin. That sounds cool. Sneak bonus during storms makes sense. Weather sounds and interiors, yes. Higher performance, lower quality sounds. I have a decent PC, so I'm not going to check this. But if you don't have a decent PC, then maybe you're interested in that. No pitch black nights. I actually really like the darker nights, especially in Fallout 3. It really adds to the ambiance and the sort of the creepiness of the American capital in ruins and stuff like that. I really like the darker nights, but if you don't like dark nights, or you get scared easily, or you're someone that struggles to see in the dark on video games and screens and stuff, then I would not recommend it because it is very dark, as you saw before. But anyway, I like these settings as is, so I'm just going to hit install. And the mod was successfully installed, and that's basically it. So you can close out of this, and you'll now see it all pop into the bottom here, and that's how you know that it was successfully installed. But that's really all there is to it. It's that easy. Fallout Mod Manager makes things really simple for you. So that's it for enhanced weather. Okay, next up on the list is Fellout. We're going to show you how to install Fellout. It's a little bit more complicated. There's a few more bits and pieces that you're going to want to install, but it's more or less the same as installing other mods you've seen before. We're going to use Fallout Mod Manager, so that's all consistent. So first things first, the link in the description will take you to the front mod page here. I highly recommend you read the mod page, as I always do, but I've read it, so I'm going to jump right into getting the files that I need. So this is the core mod. We are going to need this, just to prepare you. We're gonna get this, and then also we're going to grab the add-ons for the DLCs, since we have the DLCs, or since I have the DLCs. I don't know if you have them, you may not. If you don't have the DLCs, don't get this. If you do, then you're going to need this. I recommend that you do get the DLCs, by the way. They're pretty good, they're very fun, and they're very cheap right now, so I do recommend that you get those. This is a fix for an issue. If you have issues related to seams, well, read the mod page. If you have the issue that it's talking about, you're going to want this. I have not experienced the issue, so I'm not going to get this right now. But I'm going to grab the main file, the DLC file, and the greener grass file. And I covered all these in the before segment, so look to there if you want to know why I'm doing these. But I'm going to go ahead and get all of them. So let's start with the core file. So I'm going to go to manual download, slow download again, because I'm not a premium member, and that's going to download. And then I'm just going to go ahead and grab everything before I jump over to Fallout Mod Manager. So back to the file page. The next one I need is the DLC. So I'm going to grab the DLC support file, slow download again. There we go. Now I've got the main and the DLC, and now the optional greener grass, manual download, slow download. And again, they're all pretty small, so they pop in right away. So now that I have all the files I need, I'm going to go ahead and open up Fallout Mod Manager right here. Once again, Package Manager over on the right. It's going to pop up this window, and I'm going to add a FOMod. Add FOMod. It should take you to your downloads folder. It may take you somewhere else, but it took me to the downloads folder. So the first thing first is the core file. So I'm going to click on that and hit open. Make a copy. Just for safety's sake, I'm going to say yes and hit make a copy. And then I'm going to click on it and hit activate. I'm going to hit yes to all to let it overwrite. And then it's going to say successful, and that's all well and good. So now we're going to do the next one, add FOMod. And now the next one I'm going to add is the DLC support. So I'm going to click on that, make a copy, yes, and then click on it, check activate. Mod was successfully installed. Pretty easy so far. Add FOMod. Last but not least, greener grass. Open that up, make a copy, yes. Hit activate, and yes to all to let it overwrite, and the mod was installed. Okay, so that's all it takes to install Fellout. So hopefully that was pretty straightforward. It wasn't too fast for you. Once again, if you got questions, let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, Fellout is pretty easy to install. It's just like a lot of the other mods we've been through. The only trick is that there's multiple files, and just you want to make sure they're in the right order. I would do them in the exact order that I did them. The core file first, then the DLC, then the greener grass. I would do that exactly in the order that I did them. But once you've done that, you're all set and good to go. So that's how you install Fellout. Okay, so now we are going to install Fallout Streetlights. Again, it'll take you to the description of the mod page, and I say this every single time, but you do really want to read the mod page on this one. It has stuff like INI settings, which I'll show you how to do, but I think they're really useful to read about. And then again, compatibility, again, I'll cover it, but you do want to read and just be aware of that sort of thing. But I've already read this, so let's just get to the file. Same process as usual. There's just one file this time. It's pretty straightforward. Manual download. Slow download as always, but it's not a big mod, so it downloads pretty quickly. Same thing, Fallout Mod Manager. Go ahead and grab it. Package Manager over on the right. Add FOMod, Downloads folder, Fallout Streetlights, open. Yes, make a copy, and activate. Boop, boop, mod is installed. That's easy, pretty easy to do. That part's not hard. The tricky part is knowing that we now, so you can close out the package manager. We now, based on what the description of the mod page says, we now need to make sure that Fallout Streetlights is loaded. Let me just double check. In the description, it tells us that Fallout Streetlights needs to be loaded before Broken Steel. You should have Streetlights before it in your load order. So if you grab the Streetlights ESM, you sure you're in just the regular Fallout Mod Manager, you can sort the order of things. This is called your load order. And you can sort the load order of these things. So I'm just going to drag Streetlights just above Broken Steel. And I'm actually going to make sure that these guys load above. Let's see, how do I want this? This. I guess that's fine. That's where it was before, wasn't it? Yeah, Enhanced Weather can stay down there. And Broken Steel is right after Streetlights. So that's exactly how you want your load order. For now, you want the pit, Anchorage, Streetlights, Broken Steel, Enhanced Weather. So that's where you want it, and that's it. You've just changed your load order, and that's all you have to do that. But I also want to incorporate these INI tweaks. The reason is because I have a pretty decent gaming PC. It's got good specs, and so I think that my game runs perfectly fine with higher graphical settings for Fallout 3. Yours may not, but if you do have a pretty decent gaming machine, then I do recommend that you use these light settings, as I'm going to use them too, and I think they really do enhance the mod, and it's what you're seeing in the video. So that's what I would recommend to do. But to do that, I'm just going to leave those there. I'm going to navigate to my INI file. So under Documents, My Games, Fallout 3, these are your INI files. Now, you might see here I have a folder called INI Backups. I made that folder because I wanted to keep a backup of my INI files, as I recommend that you do as well. So if you haven't already, create a new folder, call it whatever you want. I call it Any Backups. In here, I have the very original INI that comes with the base game. Like when you first load the game, this is what they give you. This is after I made my own changes, as you saw in my very first Fallout 3 video. So that's that backup. And then this is the INI that I'm going to edit now that I want to make these light changes. So you might say, okay, well, this is a lot of things to sort through. I don't want to have to find all those individual lines. Well, that's where Control F comes in. So you can search for something in there, in that text file. So the first thing we're going to do is F-light. I'm actually just going to copy and paste this right here. So we're going to find that, copy and pasted it into there. Find next, it's right there. So it's at 1000, and the mod page recommends that it be at 10240. So I'm just going to change this to 10240, and then I'm just going to press Control S to save. No big deal. Right, and we're going to repeat that for all these. So F-light range, LOD range, copy, paste, find next. I should really start reading the numbers first. 10240. Are they all? Okay, the first couple are okay. 10240. So 10240. Control S to save. And then the next one, Flight. This one right here, same thing. And same value. Control S to save. And now this one. And you could find these just by looking at the file, but I'm just going to let the thing do it for me. And then what was the value on this one? I didn't look. 10,240, okay. So there's that. Next, start fade. And then F shadow LOD. This should be 200. I'm guessing it's the next one, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's at 200. F shadow LOD range 200. Okay, they're all in order. Min start fade 100 and then 1,000. And then 1,000. That's all good. 10,240 on the default start fade. Yeah, default start fade. Right here, 10,240. Okay. And then the next one. So we're down here now. F specular LOD range. So what is that 10,240 again? Yeah, 10,240 for these three. Okay. F specular LOD range right here. 240. And again, these are just two, and then these are all 10 as well, I believe. Start fade, max start fade. Okay, so these are both 10,240. So the reason we're doing this is because it improves the graphical quality of the lights, and it really helps Fallout street lights to stand out. So now that we have that saved, I'm just pressing Control S or File Save just to be sure, not Save As, just Save. And then I can close it, and that's it. We're now done installing Fallout streetlights. So there's a little bit more there only because we incorporated these any tweaks. If you don't want to do those any tweaks because you don't want to risk any performance loss, then you can skip that part that I just did with the text file, and you can just stop after you install the mod with FOMM, and then after you sort it in your load order. It's very, very important that you do the sorting. And just to recap, it should be in this order that I'm showing here, and I'll put that in the description of the video so that you can reference it later. But hopefully that was a pretty easy install, so let's move on. Okay, so here we are at the final mod to install Fallout Wanderers Edition. This is slightly more complicated only because it requires some load order tweaking that's pretty precise, but we'll get to that. And as I said before, this is a incredibly long mod page. Once again, though, I do still recommend that you read it, but I realize that it's kind of intimidating based on its size. So I will condense my interpretation of it. Basically, this mod does have some requirements, namely the Fallout script extender, and Fallout Mod Manager is not required but recommended, and then some other resources. Now, the only thing, if you've followed along with my tutorial so far, you already have the script extender, but if you don't, for whatever reason, you'll need it for this. So let's go ahead to the Files tab. In the Files tab, you'll see 4 different main files available, or open files available. We actually need all of these, so we're going to manually download all of these. So this is part 1 right here, so we're going to manually download part 1, and then we're also going to have to check slow download because I don't have premium. That's not a big deal. And then back to the Files tab. I'm just going to queue up all these downloads, and then these are going to be pretty big, so they might take you a little while. And then part 2, I'm going to queue that up as well. So part 1, part 2, back to files. And we also want the hotfix, which should be pretty small in of itself, but you do need the other files before you can get the hotfix, but we do want that. So far we've got those 3 covered. Now we do need this, the DarNified UI support, because if you've followed along with my tutorial, especially the first video, and the second video, you'll notice that we have a new UI mod. We're using the same UI mod, so we're going to need this in order to get these two to work together, the UI, DarNified UI, and FWE. So now that we have all those queued up, take a look at my downloads here. Okay, so, all right, almost done. Got a couple to go, but I think I'll just cut. These are just downloading. They're just downloading the archives. I'll cut to when they're done. Okay, so the files have just finished downloading. Don't worry, I haven't done anything. I'm still in my downloads folder. They've just finished downloading. That's it. So now that they're all downloaded, what you're going to want to do is open up Fallout Mod Manager if you haven't already, and it's going to be very simple to what we've done before. We're going to open up the package manager, add FOMod over here on the right. It's going to take us to our downloads folder. If it doesn't take you to your downloads folder, just navigate to wherever you downloaded those files to. We're going to look for part 1 first. So we're going to click it, hit open. We're going to have to wait a little while for it to do this. If it takes too long, I'll cut it, but if not, we'll wait. Make a copy. I'm going to hit no, just because it's a large mod and I don't want to have that whole copy. Again, you may have to wait a little while. This is normal. It's just working in the background. Just kind of let it do its thing. And then eventually it'll pop up and we're going to hit activate once it does pop up. Again, it's going to take some time. It's a large mod, so just let it do its thing. Archive invalidation does not appear to be active. This mod requires it to be activated in order to work correctly. Please make sure to use the toggle invalidation feature available in the main form after installing this mod. Would you like to abort this unless we do so now? Yes, we do. I forgot to mention that. We actually do want to go ahead and toggle archive invalidation. So, tools, archive invalidation, remove archive invalidation. Yes. And we're going to go back to the package manager, check it again, hit activate. That's a good thing to run into in case you encounter that error. Which you probably will. That's what will happen, and you can use that tool section to do that very easily. Okay, hang on. Back to tools. Archive invalidation. Apply. Yes. Okay, so archive invalidation was applied. Let's open this guy up. There we go. Okay. So all it took was toggling it off and then toggling it back on. No big deal. So the components, core components, we want all of them. DLC compatibility patches, we want all of them. I have all the DLCs. If you don't, you'll want to check and uncheck what applies to you. But since I have all of them, I'm going to leave them there. Followers plugin, optional. I'm going to check both of these because I do want the Broken Steel version because I have Broken Steel. But followers enhanced Broken Steel, that's what I want. Alternate travel, I do like that. I'm going to go ahead and check that, the motorcycle thing I talked about earlier. Optional restore tracers, I'm going to leave that off. Restore tracers automatic only, leave that off. Optional VATS, half-time, real-time, I'm going to leave those off. I like the way VATS works now, so I'm going to leave those off. And then once again, just let it do its thing. All right, when it's done, that's only part 1. And so now we need to go to add FOMod. Part 2, open. Again, just wait, let it do its thing. It's working. You just gotta give it a second. Like I said, large mod. Just need to let it do its thing. Make a copy. I'm gonna hit no. Just waiting for it to pop up again. It's working in the background. It'd be nice if they told you it was working, but they don't really have a good indication, but that's okay. So there it goes, it pops up, activate. It might give us the same message about archive invalidation, but if that's the case, we'll do the toggle on and off again. Nope, it didn't, so it looks like we're good. All right, part 2 done, easy enough. Add FOMod, now we want to do the hotfix. I'm gonna do that. Make a copy, no. Once it pops up, check it, activate, yes to all on the top. Mod was installed. All right, last one, DarNified support. We're going to open that up. Make a copy, no. Click on it, activate, yes to all. Mod was installed. Okay, so we've installed everything. This is the part where you need to balance your load order correctly. So luckily, the mod page, if you go to the description, the mod page down at the bottom has a guide for how to set your load order. And I am going to follow it and watch you and let you follow with me while I fill this in. And then in the description of the video, I will provide the correct load order or a link to it or the actual text itself. I'm not sure yet, but I'll provide the correct load order. So let's go ahead and walk through this. So we want the unofficial patch first, Fallout 3. I think actually we want to do that. Yeah, Fallout 3, then unofficial patch. Then we want Anchorage, the Pit, Anchorage, the Pit, Broken Steel, Point Lookout, and Zeta. That's fine. Then we want Streetlights is fine. Is good where it is. Not weather. We're gonna have to move that. Okay. So after Streetlights, then we want Craft and then Caliber. And that's it. And then Wanderer's Edition main file. And then Rain and Snow, that's good. And then Alternate Travel, I believe, is fine there. Then we actually want DarNified UI up here. Right here. And then and then blah blah blah. And then we want to put all of the okay, so after, let's see, after the unofficial patch and before enhanced weather, we want to put Fallout 3 main file. Then we want to put the Anchorage one after that, then the Pit after that, then Broken Steel after that, then Point Lookout, then Mothership Zeta, then Followers Enhanced, and then the other, optional restore traces. I definitely unchecked this. I'm gonna uncheck these guys because I don't want those, so I'm gonna leave those unchecked. And then now we have all of our weather mods, which I believe should be correct. Yes, so that should be fine. Okay, so I believe that is all that we need. So that should be correct. I'll test it before I give it to you, but I believe this is correct, and you'll find the correct load order, either a link to a Google Doc that tells you the load order in the description of the video, or you will find just text in the description that tells you what the correct load order is. But this should be fine here. So that's all there is to it when it comes to installing Fallout Wanderers Edition, and that concludes all the tutorials that I want to go through with you guys today. I hope these were helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. Take it easy. Bye.